Classic
I feel like
Zoom
that won't be the
blunder
first
right
time you
there.
do that,
That's
right?
blunder number one. All right, talking while you're muted. So I'd like to introduce Matt Solomon of ID Agent. Lots of you know Matt, obviously, in the channel here. He's going to talk to us about security in the MSP space. ID Agent, as you know, kind of took the channel by storm, and is still taking it by storm. So Matt, I'll turn it over to you. Thank you so much for your sponsorship.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And thank you guys for having us and putting this on today. So I'll just share my screen. And if you could just confirm that you guys can actually see it, that might be helpful before I
Looks
go into
good,
things.
Matt.
Excellent. So as Ryan said, my name is Matt Solomon, Vice President of Business Development with ID Agent, also with Kaseya, our parent company. And so today I'm going to really, dive into some issues that the MSP space has been dealing with, still is dealing with even post-COVID, or not post-COVID, but during COVID-19. I've actually got some screenshots and things specifically related to what's obviously happening right now in terms of security around COVID-19, because there's all kinds of issues popping up and warnings from the FBI and things that your customers definitely need to be aware of. We always have believed in selling through education. Many of you might know that one of our core products is dark web monitoring, and we've always, since the second we got onto the scene, said lead with education, and that will get people to understand the issues. And so really the first third of my presentation is completely educational and showing you what's happening in this industry. And a lot of the slides, if you're a partner of ID Agent, you can actually repurpose in your own presentations, which is a great opportunity right now, especially to be able to do webinars with your customers. We take a very quick look into the platform just to give you a sense of it, but then we really talk about some actual success stories of MSPs using security and leading with security to really sell the rest of their security stack, and whether that's security or compliance and the rest of their MSP services. So for those who are not aware of ID Agent, just a kind of a quick overview of our 3 core products. So we kind of earned our stripes in the channel on the dark web monitoring side. So monitoring the dark web for compromised credentials, emails and passwords being exposed on the dark web. From that, we then birthed Bullfish ID, which is phishing and security awareness training tool. And that allows you to do phishing simulations, obviously training for your customers, and then actually just launching this week. So actually really kind of the first time we're even talking about this out loud, we launched Passly, which is our 2FA password management and single sign-on platform. So really exciting kind of grouping of security services that can really be part of, we think are an essential part of anybody's security stack. And if you're a partner with ID Agent, please inquire about Passly, because we have some free licensing for internal purposes, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Very quickly, I'll just mention, this is kind of just ID Agent by the numbers. Some of these need to be updated. One of the most important numbers that we're proud of, I would say, is we have 4, and actually now it's 5 former MSP CEOs on staff. And the reason we think that's such an important thing is your voice is being heard. These people have worked at MSPs, run MSPs, so everything we're doing is around what an MSP needs and wants. So we kind of started the year with around some key marketing messages. I'm not going to go into details of all of these. We've got some great vendors, other sponsors on the calls later today and tomorrow that are going to be probably going into way more detail in some of these. So we will touch on a few of them, but just not as in greater detail. I know we've got a compliance company as well on a call later today. So one of the key things that we're talking about is this idea of zero trust. And I think you're going to hear me say now more than ever, this is more important. I mean, as employees are going remote, this is becoming more critical. And the idea is that you have to assume that everybody has been compromised, whether that's on the dark, something has been compromised of this individual. So you have to set the right policies and have the right access management to make sure you're not putting your organization at risk. So that's having the right people with the right security access, with the right machines and the right privileges. And then on the back end, monitoring for those compromises on the dark web. So you have some proactive capability of saying, hey, this is actually an account that's been compromised. Let's do something about it. So it's, again, this concept, zero trust, assuming everybody has been compromised, creating policies and security around that concept. So nothing new. MSPs are under attack. Most of you on the line are certainly going to be aware of this. It's kind of that one-to-many concept, right? If you attack an MSP, you then gain access to all of their customer base. And really, that's a message, depending on the industry you're selling into, is something you can talk to. If you're talking about a law firm or an accounting firm, anybody that has a grouping of client or small businesses that they're working with is going to be a target. A law firm then has access to 100 other companies, making the law firm the obvious choice of where a hacker would want to attack first, because again, that one-to-many concept. Kind of along those lines, and these are success stories that we talk about, because MSPs are under attack, and you guys are out there talking about why these are, why these security services are so important, but not all of your clients have bought into that. It's this idea of a decline of service, and I'm actually sharing two examples, one on a much larger scale and kind of on a smaller scale. Again, this gets back to education, QBRs. When you're having these conversations, the idea is, and it could be dark web monitoring, it could be any other security service that you feel is absolutely necessary for their business, and you say, look, we've educated you on this. If you, we are making it a mandatory service for, whatever the cost is. If you don't want it, we are asking you to fill out this form, which is a decline of service, right? It's some liability form that they're handing out and signing. And so just two really quick examples of that working. We had a partner, Tom. He actually wanted to make his money back as quickly as possible on our partnership from Computer Magic. He sent out emails to 4 out of 5 of his clients. He reached out to them ahead of time to discuss it, and 4 out of 5 of those clients signed on to dark web monitoring within 3 hours. On a much larger scale, beyond just dark web monitoring, Steve from Help Desk Calvary actually doing QBRs really kind of addressed this issue of security and how it's an evolving space, and said, I'm making, this 1.0 version of a security stack, I'm making this mandatory. So it was a slew of other services beyond just dark web monitoring, efficient security awareness, and he was able to add 18,000 in monthly recurring revenue from his existing customer base. And realizing, obviously, with the times changing right now, these are still conversations you can have. Maybe it's about where we're headed in the future, but we believe there's no better time to be talking about security, as all of these, again, employees are working remote. Another area is obviously compliance. As I mentioned, I won't dive into this, but I think it's incredibly important for you to be aware of. I mean, GDPR is coming to America. California was really the first state to really launch a fairly sophisticated privacy laws. New York Shield Act is the most recent. It was effective on March 1st. And the interesting thing about the New York Shield Act, and I'm sure you'll hear more about it later, it's really the first one where, I mean, they had requirements for 50 plus employees and a certain threshold for revenue, but it actually is one of the first ones where it stipulates, it has in writing, hey, just because you don't meet these criteria doesn't mean you can't do anything. Like, you have to do something. And anybody that's out there that's considering or already works with cyber insurance companies, I mean, that's something you're going to want to be aware of. Your customers are going to be needing them to do something. Because when you try to file a cyber insurance claim and you're not doing phishing and security awareness training, I think that is going to be a huge obstacle for that company and yourself to get reimbursed. So phishing attacks are surging. I kind of created these slides just recently. The FBI came out really yesterday with this, but I mean, obviously we all in this industry know that the phishing attacks have been surging with COVID-19. And I actually have a couple examples that I'm able to show. And, this just gets to the sophistication level. And I think that's probably the scariest part about it, is these are, if your customers are not trained on this, to look at this and just assume it's fake, it's not so obvious. I mean, they did very minor changes at the top of the CDC -gov.org, and in the body of the email is a legitimate link. Well, it looks like a legitimate link because it says cdc.gov. So pretty scary stuff. And again, very important to be educating your customers, and that's what we encourage. And we'll talk about our partner powered services program with Goal Assist, which really hones in on either having us or having yourself really start educating your customers through webinars. Obviously, really great time to be able to connect with them through webinars. This one, again, pretty scary. Workplace policy phishing emails. I mean, everybody's, every organization is sending emails out to their own customers talking about new policies. Very easy to fall for something like this. Another example, medical advice, right? Everybody's trying to, no one has all the answers. So everybody's trying to read information on this stuff. A very opportune thing for a hacker to do, which is deliver a medical advice phishing email. I bring this one up to just, I assume we have MSPs across the world. This is not just North America-based phishing. This is an Italian example for medical advice. In the UK, you got an example, and you're going to see this is just going to get hammered by hackers, which is around COVID-19 relief. So this is an example of one that we're seeing. I read an article. They were seeing, and this is like 2 weeks ago, so the number may have gone up. They're seeing 2,000 fake COVID-19 websites going up every day. I mean, that is a really high number, obviously, and it's pretty scary for any small business that's really trying to do what's best for their business to apply for loans when there's so much fictitious things. But it, again, gives the MSPs tons of opportunity to be subject matter experts or bring on other experts in the industry, bring on somebody that's dealing with the small business loans. That gives you guys, gives you an opportunity to be in front of your customer, providing them value. And I think that's obviously going to be a key message, is providing tons of value to your customers in their time of need. This one I just thought was worth sharing as well, which is an SMS phishing one where, again, issued a payment. So these are things to look out for. Again, if you're a partner of ID Agent, happy to show you, provide some of these so that you can do these same kind of presentations. Phishing kits that are out there, just wanted to show examples and snapshots from the dark web, what's out there beyond just the COVID-19 themes. This stuff is available. Anybody can go on the dark web and essentially download phishing kits that are really walk you through step-by-step on how to run a phishing campaign. This is an example. This is from one of our dark web analysts. I don't actually remember. I think the one on the, actually, I'm not even sure which one's the real one, but the point is, look how similar those things look, okay? And imagine if you're looking at that on a mobile device, very difficult to tell any difference. Same example, one's real, one's fake. I don't know actually which one it is, but again, those are the things your customers are dealing with, and yourself as an MSP. Another thing that's become very new to the industry is ransomware to public extortion. I don't know if anybody on the call has heard about this. The idea, you guys are told, never to pay the ransom. So the hackers have said, okay, we see what you're doing. So now what we're going to do is we're going to hit you with the ransomware attack. If you don't pay us, we're going to threaten to go public and tell everybody that you have a data breach. And that starts hitting into regulation things. So like with this company, Allied Universal, this Maze released or reached out to the press, and for GDPR reasons, Allied Universal had to come forward now. And now they're in this cat and mouse game, and they didn't really believe at the time that they were going to post the data, and they did. So they kind of called the bluff. It came out and they put out the data. TravelX was another really big example of this new ransomware to public extortion. And this is one of our most popular slides. If we were in person, a lot of people would probably be taking snapshots of this. Again, this is to articulate how real some of these threats are. This is ransomware as a service. This is an actual dashboard of a customer. So you can pay $99 a month. You have access to a fully brandable, customizable ransomware as a service platform. So really and the reason we show these is that your customers need to understand that these are, these hackers are running this stuff as a business. It's not some 16-year-old kid in his basement. It's being run like a real business. This, again, these just hammer these topics home. This is a dark web job ad for $762,000. You can actually make more based on positive performance reviews. Again, more snapshots and totally available to our partners. This was that large data breach. They called it the mega breach, 773 million credential exposures. But what you see there is ratings, just like you would on Amazon.com. So communication ratings, quality ratings. Here's another example. This is a company that's running a holiday discount. So again, no different than a normal corporation would run. And the beauty of these snapshots that you're able to show your customers is it finally proves to them when they're saying things like, we're a small business, we're not going to get attacked. Well, this is snapshots actually showing small businesses being targeted, right? So small corporate 201 credit dumps. Here's another example, 300 businessfuls of California business owners with high credit scores. So it's a curated list. The word fools, by the way, if you ever see that come up, it means there's enough information in that database to perform identity theft. So just something to be aware of when you see the word fools. This is a brand new one. I just put this together. I was shocked when I saw it. I realized it's a little blurry. This is actually a dark web daily newsletter. I was really surprised when I saw this. So this is a company, presumably on the dark web, sending out emails to other hackers on the dark web to watch out for scam and fraud themes, even on the dark net. So so it's fraud on top of fraud taking place, and this company is actually providing a newsletter to hackers on which ones to stay away from. And just took this out of the headlines. We've already know about Zoom bombing, and that's been a topic. This one's where they're actually posting verified Zoom accounts on the dark web. So, I'm sure people will talk about this today, that the idea of not posting a live Zoom link without registration capabilities, things like that, something where you can actually vet who's coming into the Zoom, because now we are seeing for the first time Zoom accounts being posted on the dark web, and that in the message it actually talks, there's a hacker saying he's going to troll some of the meetings, and some of these meetings could be very confidential things, so definitely important to be aware of. Kind of tying this back to the original concept of the zero trust, and everything kind of stemming back to the individual compromised credential. That's where everything kind of stems from. That's where most breaches start. This is kind of just a quick graph of various compromised credentials: brute force attack, phishing, compromised stolen credentials. But it really brings it back to our core product, which is our dark web monitoring platform. Now, again, I'm only going to show you very quick snapshots because I really want to get into success stories of how MSPs are using security as a lead into other conversations. But this is the dashboard view. It's multi-tenant. It is a white labeled brandable platform. Again, we're monitoring for all your companies, organizations that you're working with, their compromised credentials. So emails, passwords, PII, which could be social security numbers, date of birth. We're not going to show somebody's social security number, but it will identify it in the platform. Personal emails, IP addresses as well. We don't get a ton of hits on IP addresses, but when we do, it usually means malware is associated with it. We have integrations into all the big PSA tools, so Kaseya BMS, Autotask, and ConnectWise. So anytime there's a credential exposure, it will actually create a ticket for you and automate that process. Now, this is definitely a topic that I think we're going to have to shift gears on a little bit, or a lot, I would say, during COVID-19, which is our live data search. And it's one of the biggest reasons, as Ryan mentioned, ID Agent took the channel by storm a little over 2.5 years ago. This is a sales and prospecting tool. It allows you to put the domain of an organization, and it pulls up the 100 most recent emails and passwords on the dark web. And it's been an incredible tool for MSPs to get their foot in the door, have conversations around security. It's the proof that MSPs finally need to show a customer and say, look, this is why you need phishing and security awareness training, 2FA, password management, DNS filtering, backup continuity and disaster recovery. This is why you need this stuff. And so it's why it's been so powerful. Certainly, we believe just outgoing and prospecting at this time with this data isn't probably going to be the right move. This is going to want to be a part of a broader conversation. So really, I think this is a snapshot of what our report looks like. So I think that's where this is going to come into play, and having any of these conversations, virtually at this point is going to be the way to have this, not just blindly sending this to people. But as you're talking to your customers, again, I don't know that there's going to be a better time right now in terms of having conversations around security. They're asking you guys these questions. I've talked to a lot of MSPs that are getting more conversations around security than they've ever had, Ken, because of all the remote issues. So now, with phishing and security awareness training, very critical that you make sure your employees, especially with everything that's going on with COVID-19 phishing scams, that they're aware of these things and what to look for. So we definitely think a softer approach is a better way with this. So it's going to be people you already have meetings set up with, but when you're having that broader security conversation, you can talk about this service versus just outwardly prospecting using the tool like we've probably previously talked about. And I think that will change. I wanted to share this success story. This is really an unbelievable success story where, because it's funny, when you show the report to people, they, for some reason, they skip the active employees and go right to the employee who doesn't work there anymore. And they're like, well, why do I care? And this is a perfect example of one reason why you should. So this employee had been fired from 2 years ago, and the new person in this position recognized the password as their bank passwords, their active bank passwords, which happened to have access to over $1 million in cash in them at the time. So, you know, they were able to log in, see that, and it of course resonated with that customer as soon as they saw this. And then Outsourced Technology Solutions was able to sign them then and there, and they agreed to implement employee on and offboarding procedures. So critical, especially right now, right? You're going to have, unfortunately, you know, there are going to be employees losing jobs. So that offboarding procedure is going to be critical. So making sure that you have these policies in place to set your MSP and your customers up for success and security. I've mentioned Bullfish, which is our phishing and security awareness training. I set this up because, again, it sets up a really great example of how to use the product to talk about security with your customers. So everybody on the call knows phishing and security awareness training, so I'm not going to deep dive into this. I do want to point out something really unique that we have, because it's the most empowering, it's one of the most empowering stats you'll have as an MSP, which is that we allow the end user, when they get a phishing email, they can click on it, which you'll get the results of, but they can actually submit data. Now, we do not store the data. That's very critical. But when you're able to talk to your customer and say, look, 22% of your employees just submitted their credentials over from a fake email. This is why we need to implement all of these other policies we've been talking about and have rules and regulations around that. This next story is an example. And I think we can find ways to do this in a different way right now. But he convinced a break-fix customer of theirs who had been a break-fix for 10 years to run a phishing simulation. 25 employees, 92% of them clicked on it, 54% of them submitted data, and they were able to turn that into a 3-year MSP contract worth over around $252,000 over 3 years. So we had never thought about using your own customers, and I should preface, you should never do phishing emails. That's probably illegal to non-customers. So these are people who've agreed to it. Going back to your customer base and say, look, you know, you're all moving to remote right now. I think it's critical that we run a few phishing tests just to see where we're at. We need a baseline to understand where your employee's at. So this is a really great opportunity to take advantage of that capability. The other thing we just mentioned or just launched is Passly, and again, very critical right now. Again, it's our 2FA password management and single sign-on platform. One of the really cool things with single sign-on, obviously, is the capability to keep credentials to a minimum. I think people have over 250 applications that they log into. So you'll have the ability to do a launch pad into those different applications that they're using for work with the password management. So, not getting those exposed passwords hopefully out there and putting your organization more at risk. And so I'm going to kind of shift gears slightly, but it's important. And the reason I'm going to go over this is because this is going to be what enables you to have these conversations in this really tough time to sell anything, right? So we have a program, anybody that's familiar with ID Agent knows we have a killer partner program where we had a platform where you could log in and get hundreds of marketing collateral, all branded for you. Once we got acquired by Kaseya, they decided to take ID Agent's program and run it across all of the business units. So everything you're seeing below, you can have access to powered services. It's included in your subscriptions. But this is really the sales enablement tools. So it's a platform you're able to log into. We've got playbooks, we've got scripts for you. We've just added through our Kaseya Cares program, which is around COVID-19. I think we're gonna have upwards of 50 documents in the platform related to that, whether that's, how to do some of the government subsidies that MSPs are looking at right now. All that's going to be available. And actually, I just kind of took snapshots from from our powered services place. I mean, this is just in the last couple of days of things that have gone into it. So it says COVID, international resources, on-demand webinars. We licensed some stuff through Gary Pika and True Methods. So just business guidance, top 10 tips while Coronis keeps you in. So lots of content that's available to any Kaseya customer. It doesn't just have to be ID agent. A lot of that becomes available to you. Our goal assist program, again, you know, we've been talking about this for so long, this idea of getting in front of your customers on webinars, having subject matter experts, and that's what you're allowed through our goal assist program. You can actually have, it could be myself, it could be your channel success manager, where we actually get on webinars and educate your customers on these topics. You know, some of those slides we showed earlier in the day, we educate them through those topics so that they have an understanding, and you know, we can pick and choose which ones. We could be on that. We could be on there as ID agent, or we can be there on there as an extension of your team. Whatever you want to do, that's fine with us. But we are available. This is just a snapshot of kind of partners using, you know, different means of getting to their customers. Again, a lot of webinars. There was some in-person stuff, and you know, these were snapshots. We did over 400 events in 2019. Now, so these are snapshots from in-person. So I did want to shift my my success stories to some examples that I think are more applicable to you today, because we cannot do in-person events. We talked about the webinars. I'll give you an example. Katie Wallace of our team got on a webinar with an MSP partner of ours, and they actually closed 5 of their customers before the webinar even ended in terms of signing on for the dark web monitoring, because they finally understood why it was so important. We had a partner, James Sanders. This is such a cool story. He went out and reached out to his local chamber. It was something we suggested, and he spoke in front of his chamber. So this was as the events were still happening live, but then he got an invitation. Somebody in the audience happened to run a radio show, and he became a co-host for an entire month on Tech Talks for a local radio show. Peter here really just did a LinkedIn thing on posting, saying, offering dark web scans for customers. CRN channel picked him up and ran an article on what he was doing in terms of engaging his audience through LinkedIn. I'm going to give you a LinkedIn tip. If you're on this call, no other MSPs are doing this to my understanding. So hopefully it's an insider tip. You know, I think you can reach out to people through LinkedIn, connect with them. Do not try to sell anybody through LinkedIn. I think that's always a terrible idea in general. If you're connected on a first degree connection, you can actually do video. So you can do it through your phone. So you do a 30-second video, and then you can send it to them through their messaging on LinkedIn. It's a lot more personal, and no one else is doing it. They will listen to it. So I think that's a really good way to engage with your customers, and just say, hey, just checking in, making sure you're doing okay. Let me know if there's anything you can do, and even to your network. It doesn't have to just be customers. We worked with a partner who was able to actually get an interview on a morning show. I mean, TV shows are still looking for content. Security is obviously a huge topic right now. So very cool opportunities out of the Netherlands. Very good opportunity to maybe get some publicity for your MSP, and we are there to help prep you. So we did a prep session with this particular MSP. I don't have, I guess, pictures for this, but I wanted to share 2 really cool success stories that happened during COVID-19. So one, we just kind of talked about LinkedIn and reaching out. So we had a partner, he was simply reaching out, doing exactly what I said, where he was just saying, hey, just checking in. Let me know if there's anything I can do for you. He wasn't really asking for anything else beyond that. And I'm just reading what he was able to do. So he actually led to potentially 6 MRR deals. I'm not kidding. 6 potential deals just through light LinkedIn touch and checking in with people. And the other thing I had is vertical reliant. So MSPs, obviously, that are vertical reliant right now, that focus on a specific vertical, are really struggling right now, particularly if you are in certain sectors. In this particular case, our MSP was focused on the dental industry, and obviously dentists are pretty much shut down other than emergency. So they were really panicking and trying to figure out what to do. And so they worked with our team, and we told them, reach out to your chamber. Your chamber is doing online events right now. Reach out to them. They're looking for things to help their small businesses in their chamber. And so he reached out to his local chamber. They did a remote session. He spoke. And from that, he was able to get 4 projects off of that thing, and potentially 1 to 2 MRR deals. So, you know, maybe project work's not something you're always looking to do, but right now you have to be resilient. You have to be willing to do things that you wouldn't normally do. And another thing that actually just came up in a conversation I think is a great idea is to work potentially with other larger MSPs in your industry or in your area. So, you know, if you're a smaller MSP and there's a large MSP that's in your area, they may be getting hit with a lot more business as well, actually, from small businesses who need, you know, help with remote work, things like that. But they might not hit a certain threshold of employee levels that some of the larger MSPs want to work with. So there might be an opportunity for a joint venture thing where maybe you pay them the first month as the commission. We have heard from MSPs doing that, so I think that's a really good opportunity. And to kind of, you know, bring it all back, we believe it's official. Your identity is your new perimeter. We've talked about it. I've talked about it for the last 30 minutes. Actually, I don't even know how much time I've taken here, but the 2FA, you know, the compromised credential, that's where it all starts from. It's where every breach pretty much occurs from. So coming up with the policies and having the right services is so critical for your customers. And I think with all this remote work, they're now going to understand that better than ever before. The last thing I'll kind of leave you with before kind of bringing Ryan back in, or Ryan's kind of coming in. We do, you know, ID Agent, as I said, we do lead with education, but we still are doing business, and we are still getting hit up from MSPs who are interested in these services because of this new world we're living in, and want to roll out programs as it relates to 2FA, credential exposures, or phishing. So we do have a show special. So if you reach out, I have got the address below that you can reach out to us and just reference Remote Reality Live. So just real quickly, I'll go over this. So we are offering some deferred payment options that they may be available. You would have to talk to your salesperson. There's some qualifications that are required there. So we might be able to do some assistance there. Normally, Bullfish ID, which is the phishing and training, is not included on every contract level. We are including it at every contract level for no additional fee. We are providing you with a stack of COVID-19 themed marketing resources, free and branded for you through Powered Services. The Goal Assist program is typically included in certain levels, but we're offering, no matter what, a free educational webinar, which again, it's like having myself or somebody from our team jump on a co-hosted a webinar with you. And then with Passly, we're offering, this is for internal purposes, 10 free licenses of our digital risk protection platform. So the 2FA, SSO, and password manager, again, to protect your own MSP first before rolling out to your customers. And I think that kind of recaps it there, right?
All right, Matt, that was awesome. You did get some questions. I don't know. Do you have some time to?
Yeah, I've got time to
hit those up. Can you see them, or should I feed them to you?
You might want to feed
I
them.
got them, Matt. I can answer, or I can ask them for you.
Okay.
Really quick, first of all, somebody asked, they said that they're a new ID Agent partner and they were wondering if they could get this material. So, you know, I mean, obviously we'll be sharing this recording, but I'm guessing there's somewhere they can reach out to you guys to.
Yeah, so if you email Powered Services, actually, let me double check the email. But if you actually support at idagent.com is the easiest one. Yeah, all those are available to you, and that way you can get access to all the Powered Services material. Yeah, so that's all free. That's all part of the partnership.
Okay, perfect. And we'll just do one more question. Unfortunately, we're kind of running low on time. This person, Alex, was wondering, how has ID Agent been able to reassure trust and confidence after parent company Kaseya had MSP-related breaches?
How have we been able to
reassure trust and confidence?
You know, I don't want to speak for, you know, the CTO of Kaseya, but we're working with, you know, one, we're putting in, you know, we were one of the first to start adding multi-factor authentication to most of our applications. We've been working with others in the industry. I know we got together, you know, with Datto, and they did this webinar where we all are starting to share concepts and ideas. So I mean, that's really what we're trying to do, is come together as a community. I don't want to speak for our CTO as far as that, but I know we're coming together, and you know, we think multi-factor is one of the key, you know, things to I mean, it's not the the end all be all, but it's an important element, to making it a lot harder for people to perform these attacks.
Perfect. And then, so for anyone who didn't get their questions answered, Matt, where might they be able to go ahead and ask those questions?
They could email me directly. It's M and then Solomon, SOLOMON @idagent.com, or you can just email sales@idagent.com, whichever is easier.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, I think that's probably all the time we have. So Ryan.
All right. Thank you, Matt. Really
Yeah,
appreciate
thank
it.
you.
We'll send those other questions over to you, but
Yep.
great job. Really appreciate you, man. The
Yep. No, I appreciate it.